Thanks for coming. It's our webinar. It's going to be on the power of SAST and DFPM, SAST being static application security testing, DFPM being data flow posture management, with none other than Riscosity and Semgrep. I'm Jackson Harrower. I'm the Chief of Staff at Riscosity, and I'd like to introduce our two panelists now.
Howdy, I'll go first. My name is Anirban Banerjee. I am the co-founder and CEO at Riscosity. My primary background is in cybersecurity, working on code analysis, network analysis, privileged access management, and things of that sort. Been in the industry for about 15 years or so. When I started, I had a lot more hair. I don't now, so which means I must be smarter at this point of time, hopefully. Welcome to everybody on this webinar, and over to you, Milan.
Yes, thank you. I'm Milan. I'm the product manager at Semgrep. I'm the PM for Semgrep Code, which is our SAST product, which essentially helps security teams and developers find and fix vulnerabilities in their code. I've been at Semgrep for about 3 years now, focusing on a lot of things, but generally excited thinking about anything that helps security teams and development teams come together to make security better.
Great. Thanks so much, guys. And thanks to everyone for coming. We're really excited to kick this off. So without further ado, I think it would be great to provide an introduction into what static application security testing and data flow posture management are, respectively, and how they provide value to customers. Milan, you want to take it first with SAST?
Yeah. And so at a high level, so SAST, again, it stands for Static Application Security Testing. But what it really means at a high level is being able to analyze your code for vulnerabilities without having to execute that program. And that's like the technical reason, but what that matters or what that means in terms of security is that it means Semgrep is able to detect software vulnerabilities earlier in the software development cycle. Specifically, we specialize at detecting vulnerabilities at PR time and in your IDE. And this helps both developers and security teams in my mind. It helps developers because if I'm a dev, I'm working on my project. I really don't want to get pinged about a vulnerability in something that I deployed 3 months ago and I basically forgot about. I would much, much rather have like a little red squiggly line that I'm already used to in my IDE instead of having to context switch back and forth, lose my flow, and have to go back and figure out like what this vulnerability is even about. And this also helps security teams. So like by being able to get these vulnerabilities surfaced sooner, ultimately the best vulnerability for security team is the one that never ever hits production. So by being able to catch something, in a PR, in the IDE, there's ultimately no external risk for the organization at that point, and so that's kind of the best time. So that's why I think static application security testing, or SAST, can be so powerful for security teams. They really help build software that helps both security teams manage vulnerabilities and kind of get them on a good path to pay down these kinds of bugs over time. So the TLDR is kind of static application security testing really helps security teams identify vulnerabilities in their code as early as possible in the development process.
Thanks, Juan. It's such a powerful message, just making security an extension of the developer. What shift left can become in realized form. Anirban, would you like to take us through the world of data flow posture management, DFPM?
Sure, absolutely. So data flow posture management is in a subset of two very large umbrella terms that people know very well. The first one is called data security, and the second one is called data governance. If we think of a Venn diagram, in a Venn diagram, there are two circles, and the intersection of these two circles, one of the circles being data security, the other circle being data governance. The intersection and the overlap of these two circles is essentially data flow posture management. What does it actually entail? What does it give an enterprise or a customer? It gives you the ability to understand and discover who is it that your company is talking to, exchanging data with, what data are you exchanging, and how to layer governance controls on these flows of data. That's the underlying premise of data flow posture management. Now, from a benefits perspective, what it provides a team with is a very easy way to answer questions that make sense when you're doing any kind of compliance workflow. for SOC 2, for ISO, for NIST, for FedRAMP, for any one of these compliance workflows, companies have to say very clearly and accurately who are their data subprocessors, who are they exchanging data with, what type of data are you exchanging with them. These things can get automated accurately and quickly with data flow posture management. So in a nutshell, that is what DFPM is all about.
Yeah, well said. The power both of making teams' lives easier and complying in ways that weren't possible for, especially as the landscape is getting so dense with regulation across Europe, across California. It's such a pertinent time for it. Milan, I'd like to pass the mic over to you now. So as we're thinking about tighter security budgets, both tighter security budgets and new threats coming across the entire landscape, it's more crucial than ever for teams to be judicious with their security tool investment choices. So it would be great, Milan, if you could talk a little bit about why starting with SAST scans specifically is critical for laying the foundation of a security program.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Semgrep, I think about SAST as really being part of a broader story about how security teams can ultimately work to be more collaborative with their engineering teams. What I kind of envision is that AppSec teams, application security teams, can partner with developers, have to partner with developers to build what I call secure guardrails, or these mechanisms that guide developers towards secure by design coding practices, where you're not just playing like bug whack-a-mole, like this a SQL injection's here, this SQL injection's here, but really figuring out a systemic process to where you can kind of eliminate entire classes of vulnerabilities from your code base, and ultimately help developers spend more time coding, building for your organization, without having to become full-fledged security experts. They can become, they can kind of go down these paved paths or these secure guardrails that keep them on the right path. And SAST scans specifically are the perfect kind of vehicle for this kind of change, because they already sit in dev workflows. They're already in PRs. They're already running in your IDE. It's not another dashboard, another place that developers have to go to. So it's a really natural place for security teams to start to have kind of build this relationship between, again, the security team and the development team to kind of do this kind of deep organizational change. And so SAST, because it kind of sits at the intersection, is a really great place to kind of build that foundation, get developers involved in the security process early, because it's something that's pretty natural to what they're already doing in their day-to-day. So that's why I think SAST is so important for the foundation of a security program. It's the first building block, I think, to kind of build that bridge between the security team and the engineering team in an organization.
I love that idea of like swim lanes or highway lanes. Like let developers do what they do within secure guidelines. Make it effortless. So Anirban, as we think about going from development into production, could you speak on how DFPM protects code and data as we think about it, moving into a production environment, going live?
Absolutely, and I completely agree with Milan that SAST is a very good, starting point for any enterprise company who is bothered about security. It's the groundwork that you have to lay. The way we see SAST and DFPM working together is DFPM comes before and after SAST. So why does that happen? Just like any company who is interested, or a developer who is interested in making sure they do the best job they can do in terms of reducing the number of vulnerabilities, writing code that is understandable, all these good hygiene things that we want to do as a development person. What DFPM adds in terms of value to make it easy for that code to actually go to production is the following. Before the code goes to production, data flow posture management's job is to identify where are the starting points of any network-based connections that are being made in the code to transfer data. What data are you transferring? Who is it being sent to? Where is it being sent to? Now, the reason why you want to do this is to understand that you have a catalog up front of all these connectors that are going through the code base itself. Just like SAST scans can provide so much value in letting you know where you are going to commit a misstep if you are not careful. Similarly, from a data perspective, DFPM scans in conjunction with SAST, can provide those types of information to say, these are where the data connectors are going. Are you sure you want to be doing this or not? This is the first stage. The second stage is once DFPM and SAST have done their job and the code is going to be moved to production, is to validate that what we have seen on the static code side, is it actually what we see on the runtime side or not? So as an example, if you are going to send 5 fields with sensitive information to a third party to validate a customer's request for a loan processing document, what you see on the static code side, is it actually what happens on the runtime side or not? And that layer of protection in conjunction with SAST provides enterprises with a much more confident sense of taking a piece of code and putting that on servers and running that in production. That's how DFPM and SAST work together pretty nicely.
It's amazing. It's such a simple question. Do I know where my data is going, and do I have the ability to protect it? But so difficult to answer without a specialized tool like a DFPM solution like Riscosity. So thank you, Anirban. I'd like to turn it back to focus on developer experience again for a minute. Developers are the core of shift left. Given that, Milan, it'd be great if you could talk about what DX means for Semgrep specifically.
Absolutely. So the way I think about developer experience, I kind of have two key aspects to it. I think of one, it's about like where you're showing the vulnerabilities, like where are you in the development process? Like I've been talking about, you've got to hit where I am as a developer, like where am I already going to be? Am I at the PR time in IDE? Do I have a CLI integration? Like, do I have a CLI tool? All of those things are important for where the vulnerabilities are even shown. Then the second part of it that I think about is how do you present the context and remediation so you have the highest likelihood, so it's easy to fix. You can do all of this information, all detailed about what the vulnerability is, the details of how it was constructed. But unless you can make it very, very clear to a developer who may not have that security background, what the actual fix is, it's really unlikely that they're actually going to go through the work of remediating that vulnerability. And at the end of the day, as security teams, like that's the thing we care about, is making sure that what we find in all of these tools actually gets fixed and we're actually moving our security forward as an organization. And so those are kind of the two aspects, like making sure you show it in a place where developers already are, and making sure the remediation guidance you have is as tailored to what developer understanding as much as possible. One of the things that I'm particularly excited about that we launched recently that gets to the remediation side of things, we've been working deeply with AI and trying to use LLMs in order to help improve what remediation we show to developers. Right now, we're looking at not only just displaying textual guidance, like this is a description of what a SQL injection is, or this is what cross-site scripting means, but also generating actual code fixes. So by looking at the code that's around what the vulnerability is that we detect, how can we give you a one-click fix, like an apply fix button that's generated on the fly based on your custom environment? That is a great example of what a fix should look like. And that's been incredibly powerful in the customers that I've been working with to try to give them kind of a starting point. LLMs, all the technology is still very, very new and nascent. But I think for engineers, having a starting point, like kind of extending that olive branch to be able to say, like, here's like a suggested fix, here's a way where you can start to approach this problem. It's a much better place to, again, build that relationship between security teams and engineers versus just throwing a vulnerability over the wall and saying like, hey, here's this thing, look, it's on line 58, go fix it. Giving them a PR, something to work with, is a much stronger place to start. So I'm excited about using AI to help approach and improve the developer experience. So that's what I'm excited about.
I love that message of, the tool is only as useful as it makes it easy to actually fix whatever vulnerability the tool is finding. I think that's something both Semgrep and Riscosity really emphasized.
Absolutely.
We all know what how challenging it can be to get dev cycles to fix vulnerabilities and to fix data flows that shouldn't be occurring. And so making it automatic, making it easy is it's such a leg up on the competition. Anirban, so you were speaking a little bit about how how Riscosity picks up in the production environment, and can also validate what other tools like SAST tools are doing. Given both SAST and DFPM are so key to a strong foundation, I was wondering if you could dive a bit more into how teams can leverage the two together. Maybe talking about how some of our customers leverage the two together. However you'd like to take it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we do have common customers. One of our customers that got recently onboarded, they are a very popular ETL tools company with close to 1,000 people inside the company, very well known and all that. One of the there's a couple of interesting use cases over there, and the use cases also span across groups, which is a great news that the value is not in one silo only. The value is across multiple groups inside the company. So whether it is security, whether it is GRC, whether it is ops, you will find that all these groups are the ones that collaborate together and get value from a joint solution like for SAST and DFPM. So one of the examples that I can provide is for this specific customer that we are talking about. One area of focus for them is, since the security team is small, they're very efficient at what they do, they're very capable at what they do, but the number of people is small. They are concerned about dashboard sprawl as one small example. So within the Riscosity product, we can pull in information from Semgrep and provide that information directly. And if they need more detailed information, of course, the Semgrep dashboard is available with more fixed information and all that stuff. That is one small example that from a dashboard sprawl perspective, there is some panacea over there. Secondly, when people are looking at results of a SaaS scan, basically you're looking at what the vulnerabilities are, how should I improve my code base, how should I sidestep the minefields that are there at this point of time. The secondary problem that they're also trying to solve and understand is, how is this code processing data? That is a question that has oftentimes been asked but has never really been easily answered. It is important to understand what a piece of code does, how will it behave, and how can we trust that piece of code. The other side of the coin is, what is that code actually doing? What is it actually processing? Is it processing financial data, personal information data, personal health information data? In this case, for the specific customer that we're talking about, there's different kinds of data that they handle because it's a tool that they build and sell. So over here, the specific use case is to identify, when we run these scans before the code is moved to production, let's make sure the code is secure using Semgrep, understanding what the SAST scans do, understanding what we can do to fix these specific issues. But at the same time, is this code sending data to somebody that we don't know about? Is this code sending data to somebody that we do know about? And if so, what data is being sent? Have we got blessing from the GRC team to say it's okay to send piece of data X, piece of data Y, piece of data Z to these third parties, to these internal services that are there? It's actually a very good marriage of two sides. The way I see it is that you need two hands to clap, can't really clap with one hand. So when you need two hands to clap, you look at the code and understand whether the code is safe. And then you say, what does this code actually do to my data? When you overlay these two pieces of information, the visibility that you get, the analysis that you can do, and the control that is provided to you is 10x, 100x more than what you would have if you would have only used a single product. That's the immediate use case that we see with a joint customer that we have.
It's amazing how you were describing like a small team at a fairly sizable org with the right tools. It's such a force multiplier, both for that team itself and then for bringing in the other teams you need in the right way, GRC or the business side, whatever it may be. It's so important, especially as you think about building the bedrock of a security program, both to have security teams involved, but then to have the right buy-in from all the stakeholders across an org. That being said, I think it would be great if you could both talk a bit about How do you make security investments a company effort? And you've touched on this a bit, but just to dive into a bit more into that idea of collaboration and making it everyone's problem in the right way. Milan, would you like to take this one first?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, like I mentioned a bit earlier, the general theme with a good security product is being able to kind of bridge the gap between multiple different organizations within a company. It's really very rare that the security team is the only one. While they're responsible for security, they're typically not the only stakeholders involved. It can range to a lot of different groups, and that's why it's so important to make security a company-wide effort. I think one of the things like we mentioned is bringing the teams along as you're going through the process in different tools. With engineering teams, try to meet people where they are, trying to get them involved by making sure the tools that you're bringing on are something that's like native to them and something that they feel matches the needs that they have. You want tools that are fast, tools that are reliable, things that are kind of have engineering primitives or fundamentals that you would see in any other engineering tool, making sure that the security tools that you bring in operate on those same types of primitives and make sure they understand the same types of requirements. Um, Similarly, I think one of the things to make security a company-wide effort is making sure that your tools are something that you can consistently manage and easily have visibility into company-wide. So if you want to roll out either tool, ideally together, across your company, how can you ensure that this is consistently applied everywhere that you want it to? At Semgrep, we recently released a feature called managed scanning, where you have essentially you can run all of our scans on our infrastructure, but it allows you to have visibility into ensuring that your scans are running on all of the repositories that you care about without a lot of manual effort from the security team. So trying to make sure that the security team has the resources and tools to be able to get buy-in from engineering teams and have the visibility so they know if there's holes in the layer they're trying to build.
Anirban, would you like to expand on that, however you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 1000% with what Milan said. I mean, one point that I'll go back to what Milan said about clarity, the need for clarity in tools, that it's not just about, showing here's a problem, here's a problem. I remember this advertisement many years ago in a glossy magazine where there was a picture of a man ready to go out of the blocks and run a 100-meter race. And he looked like, he is the person to win the 100-meter race. But in that picture at the very bottom, on his feet, you would expect normal running shoes or something of that sort. He was wearing red high heels. And right below that picture, it was a Nike ad. And right below the picture, it said, "Power without control is nothing." So I agree that, having tools, and especially multiple tools that talk to each other, if they don't provide clarity and control, it's kind of a lost investment in that sense. It just creates more work, more noise for everybody. One point that I wanted to just add is, from a perspective of building a strong foundation and getting buy-in, it's really important to work top down, because we have to, as security leaders, as product managers, as security admins, we have to make sure we verbalize properly the value of doing something or not doing something appropriately to the C level. Because ultimately, whether we like it or not, budgets are set oftentimes by people who are not as close to ground reality as we might expect them to be. They might be 30,000 foot removed from the actual problem itself, but they're not stupid. They will understand what the implication of doing something or not doing something works out to be. So my only addition to this would be to work top down, and that can oftentimes simplify budgeting, hiring, and the entire program itself for DFPM, SAST, anything of that sort.
It's such an important reminder that at the end of the day, it's people that make great security programs great. It's
Yep.
really competent people in a bought-in org using a few really effective tools. I'm sure many of the participants today or the listeners today have gone to RSA or Black Hat and walked the floor and seen scores of different tools. But at the end of the day, it's buy-in, it's communication, and it's a few powerful tools like SAST, like DFPM. I'd like to close it out with one more question for both of you. As we're looking ahead into the next couple of years, what's catching your eye the most in the security industry? Anirban, I'll pass it to you first.
Absolutely. Thank you. For me, I'm really excited about some of the innovative things that we are going to launch and we are working on at this point of time, primarily to help our customers and clients deal with the challenges that are coming from the AI security landscape. Literally, every single company now is using some version of AI, whether it is LLMs or various other things internally for their own user experience, for improving the user experience, or for improving productivity, reducing costs, many different reasons why somebody would use it. But one of the areas, the challenging areas, is to make sure that the wrong data does not go to the wrong training model. The wrong data does not end up in the wrong, third party that is managing your AI processes and so on and so forth. It's challenging because at the same time, uh, you have to have this balance of enough training data has to go into these models, enough correct training data has to go into these types of AI tools for them to be useful to your company and to your customers. But at the same time, the burden of making sure that the right data goes in is tremendous. And I'll give you a very simple example. In most enterprises, people often think it's super easy to baseline your data. It's not. It's in my 15 years of working in the cyber industry, people oftentimes don't realize how dirty data can be, how messy data can be in your databases. So to manually, you or even use like outdated tools to go into the database, don't look at this column, don't look at that column, take only this, take only that, then feed it to the AI model. Nobody does that anymore because the time to launch is just too much if you follow these types of mechanisms. What we want is we want to have our cake and eat it yesterday. So if that is what the way the world is going, um, data security specifically for data governance on data going to AI tools as well as models internally is something that we are very excited about providing to our customers. Milan, over to you.
Yeah, I love that. I'm also excited about AI and security, but I'll take it from the other angle. I think that's very important, thinking about now that so many products are integrating AI into their systems, how do you keep them secure? I'm also interested in how AI can help security teams make their jobs a lot easier. There's so much code that's getting written every day, and security teams across the industry are still relatively small compared to their engineering counterparts. So I'm quite interested in how AI can help security teams take some of that pressure off and start to help them scale themselves across their organization. I think AI, I'm very bullish on AI to being a very strong contender to help with that. Um, there's a number of ways I mentioned earlier that we're looking at using AI to help generate remediation. So security teams can say, like, here's how our remediation looks like, point to a document or internal knowledge base that says how we remediate, and then use AI to generalize that across their engineering fleet. That's our current application of it, but in the future, I'm interested to see how we can use LLMs in various different areas of the security engineering process. One thing that I'm excited about, we've talked about a lot internally, is you have a long list of things that come out of different tools. Like, how do you figure out what are the one or two things that I should do today versus what's the things that I can do tomorrow? How can you feed context or train an LLM to get really good at helping you understand what's your to-do list for the day and help you prioritize what are the few things, you only have so much time, you have so much political points with your engineering or any other counterparts. How can you make sure whatever you do decide to use those points on is the number one most important thing to move your security program forward? And I'm quite interested in using AI to use those for those kinds of use cases. So that's what I'm excited about in security.
It's amazing as we think about the wherever we are on the edge of the AI revolution, and to whatever extent a paradigm shift this may be. At the end of the day, I heard this to some extent in both your answers, that it comes back to the fundamentals of feeding great data and building the right way and setting the right guardrails. It's people taking the basic bedrock steps that make security work. So thank you so much for your time today. And